Thank you, Kim, for the introduction, and thank you to everybody for joining us today. It's great to see on a nasty weather day so many individuals coming to join us today. But again, I'm Shane Caudill, the director of the eVA program. I'm hoping most of you have heard me or seen me before. And again, very happy that you guys are with us for this user group meeting today. Joining me here on the panel are also some folks I hope that you're very familiar with, but Barb Lehman, our Director of Policy Consulting and Review with DPS, Jan Giffen, our eVA Business Manager, and also playing a very critical role with the eVA contract, which if you hadn't guessed, that's what we're going to talk about today. And then Pete Stamps has also joined us today, our DPS director. So the concept here is I'm going to do a lot of talking and kind of get us through the content. But Barb and Jan and Pete and then myself, any questions you might have, we're all here to kind of cover it we're trying to get all those bases covered. We got contract and business, policy, you got the director of DPS, and you got me from a eVA and kind of functionality perspective. So you should have all your bases covered for any questions that might come up today with this special content that we're going to talk about today. So again, just a quick agenda. Kim kind of covered the welcome. We're going to talk about this special announcement. And if you got an email yesterday or saw a press release yesterday, you probably know what this special announcement is. And then we're going to do Q&A. And again, just to reiterate what Kim mentioned, we have a Q&A feature within the Zoom tool. I'm sure Barb and Jan and Pete will be looking that over as well while I'm talking. And then certainly we'll leave some time at the end of what I hope is a pretty quick presentation to take any questions you might have. So let's just get right to that special announcement. Hopefully you've seen your email. And you got this email, or if you haven't, you're figuring it out today. But our RFP, we are awarded, woo! And we're actually out of the protest period now as well. So we are all official and good and awarded. And so let me give you some details at a very high level about that award. The incumbent, the organization, the business that we've been working with for coming up here in March, it'll be actually 20 years. CGI, the incumbent was awarded the contract, a very long, very meticulous process. We used some of you guys on this call participated with us from evaluation committee members to going back, I think 2 summers ago, where we did requirements gathering and everything like that. So just a lot of involvement across the board, surveys that we put out both to our vendor and buyer community to get to this point. So excited to announce that CGI will remain the incumbent and was awarded the contract. I have a little bullet under there that says managed services, and that's what CGI is bringing to us, right? Kind of a managed services perspective, software as a service, however you want to call it. CGI is bringing the software to us, the environment and the architecture that the eVA lives in, the data warehouse and things like that, where they're helping us and running that solution for us, right? But this is a big change. This is a big change. So while CGI is not changing, and our relationship with CGI, for the most part, is not changing, eVA is absolutely going to be changing. Absolutely going to be changing. And that's that second bullet you see there. We are moving primarily for your core procurement functions. And I'll get into a little bit of detail. It's not everything. It's not everything. And you see that in my third bullet there. We're retaining, when I say IP, that's intellectual property. That's short for intellectual property for CGI. So we are retaining some things. But your core procurement functions, requisitioning, catalog shopping, contract management, sourcing, vendor registration, vendor response, some of those things, think about the things that you have to do in your procurement capacity, approvals, any of those things you have to do. We're moving to a software called Evalua. All right. iValue is the name of the software. I put the web address in there. You guys can go check that out. I will say quite honestly and openly at this point in time, and we'll get into some details about that in a second as well. I don't have a lot to show you because we are, and you'll see this, we're going to talk the roadmap here in just a minute, here in just a few slides. So we're very much in a requirements analysis design phase and configuration phase. So I don't have anything that looks ready for the Commonwealth yet, but you can certainly pop out to eValua.com and get a feel for maybe what that tool is going to look like, right? And get a high level idea of what your new core procurement functionality is going to be. But guys, I can't stress this enough. We are changing. This is a change. So don't just think, oh gosh, CGI, here we go, same old, same old. No, absolutely not. Everybody's going to need to get retrained. You're going to be learning new functions, learning new features. We're going to be introducing some new functionality. So this is definitely a change for you guys. Now, I think you're going to love it. I think you're going to find it's more intuitive, that it's smarter, that it's more consolidated. From what I've seen through demonstrations and as we went through the procurement process, I'm excited about the new delivery. Very, very much excited. But again, I want to stress to you, this is not the same old, same old. All right. We'll get into some details here on that in just a sec. We are retaining, I will touch on this, we are retaining some of the CGI, and again, IP is just short for intellectual property, or some of the things that CGI that we liked in our current environment. Public posting being one of them. All right. Our data warehouse being another one of them. All right. And that's just to name a few. And we'll get into some of that here in just a sec as well. So certainly some of the things we're doing now that we enjoy, we're carrying forward. But boy, those core functions, we are going to shift those into a new platform. And that's that iValua platform. So very, very excited about that. So speaking of that, let's talk about benefits. And when I say benefits on day one, when we cut on this system for you guys, it is different. It is new. And we think there's some great things coming. So let me just read through these real quick for you. And you know what? One of my changes is I have to throw my glasses on here so I can read these back to you. Yeah, let me throw my glasses on so I can read these back to you. But some of the benefits that you're going to see right out of the gate. Improve supplier services. Electronic order delivery is going to be so much better. If you're familiar with our process now, our vendor community has to basically register twice to truly get an electronic order. That's going away. Contracts, shipping notices, catalogs, improvement plans, all in one area. And boy, improvement plans are some vendor performance things that we've got that we can better do some vendor performance stuff right out of the gate on day one. So some really exciting things. I'm kind of just bumping down. I'm going straight down. So it kind of goes left, right. So the next section there, standardized across functions. And when I mean standardized across functions, this is a consolidated platform, right? It's an integrated platform. So for those of you that are familiar with eVA right now, EMAL or Ariba, depending on what you call it, looks much different from Quick Quote, looks much different from sourcing, looks different than reporting, right? Well, the iValua delivery for those core functions, those core procurement functions, man, it's the same. It's the screens are the same. The look and feel is the same. It's an integrated tool set. So the idea here is it reduces your learning curve for new users. Once you learn how to do requisitioning, it's very easy to pick up, let's say informal sourcing or that quick quote concepts, right? Because you're not changing to a completely different software. The links, the menus, the drop downs, they're all in the same spot. And it's just role driven, right? So you guys that have much more complex procurement functions, you might have access to everything. But boy, shifting between the tools and shifting between what you're doing is much, much easier. There's an enhanced shopping experience that we feel like you're going to see. The catalog maintenance for our vendors is better. We just think it's easier to navigate and to actually do buying. Smart routing and workflow. Man, now I don't know that day one we're going to do all of this, but boy, the workflow routing is just different. And we think it's smarter and much more intuitive. And not to mention, again, probably not going to happen on day one, but if there is a procurement transaction or document, even vendor registration, it can be workflow and it can be sent to somebody for review. It's amazing. Right now, in our current environment in eVA, that is incredibly difficult. The workflows are all built in the different tools. We don't even really use the workflow that's in the sourcing and contracting tool right now, even though there is some workflow there. Quick Quote has workflow, but it's like one thing. And then, the email workflow is very robust. Well, imagine that kind of across the platform and that ability to do workflow. Really, really cool. And then, man, we've got collaboration everywhere. Amongst users and suppliers, there's these like little chat areas, and it's just easier to communicate and collaborate in this consolidated platform. So, and let me tell you guys, those are benefits on day one. Going back to the idea of managed services, our model of continuous improvement we're going to keep doing that. So, kind of our vision of this is to get you guys up and running and get all of our entities and all of our vendors shifted over to the new platform. And then we'll spend the next 10, 20 years, right, growing and enhancing and adding in modules and beefing up the functionality and adding more approval flows in and improving vendor performance. And we've even got electronic invoicing functionality sitting there. So, a lot of things that we will flesh out and grow and add to over the months and years as we go down the path with this. And that reminded me something I forgot to mention at the top. The initial term of this contract, the initial term is 10 years. So we have a 10-year initial term with CGI in this engagement. And then quite honestly, there's 2 5-year renewals in there. So you could potentially be looking at another 20-year window here with this contract. So again, but benefits day one. That's we think just right out of the gate, you're going to see these things, and we plan to add on to that and make it better throughout the years. So then you're saying, well, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? What's your implementation strategy? What's going to happen here? We are going to focus on core business processes first to ensure that we do not interrupt what's happening, your business, your procurements, your ability for the vendors that we're doing business with to register and participate in the procurement process. We're going to focus on those core business processes and get those right. And quite honestly, day one, some of the paths to issue a solicitation, to get a requisition cut, we may be doing some very basic paths to start out with, right? But we want to be really focused on core business to make sure, the instant that we turn this on for you guys, that you guys can do business. All right. We're going to sequence our activities based on needs, not wants. All right. So again, that gets back to, for this initial focus on the core, what do we need to do requisition? What do we need to issue all types of solicitations? What do we need for vendor registration? What do we need to allow a vendor to respond to our solicitations electronically? And get those things sequenced. But the beauty in that sequence is what we look like day one is not going to be what we look like at the end of year one, because we're going to continue to add in functions and improve and continue through that continuous improvement model. And that's the next bullet. Embrace continuous improvement. And that's all about managed services and having CGI partnering with us, and continuing to work with us to make tweaks and improvements and add in new functions and features. And then managing day to day for success. And that's about kind of our commitment to you, right? Our team here at COVA and DGS, DPS, and our team that we work with at CGI. We're going to be checking those activities, aligning it with strategy, and just planning and trying to limit the impact to this cutover for you guys. And that's our commitment. That's our commitment to you. So how are we going to do this? Well, we've got a very short timeline. I'm going to show you a roadmap here in a few slides, but we've basically got an 11-month timeline to cut this on day one. And it is, you might have heard terms like Big Bang Theory, lights on or lights off, lights on. That's what we're doing. Single production release and cutover. And we'll get to the roadmap here in a sec, but we're thinking December. The roadmap I'm going to show you has late November. That's probably not realistic, quite honestly. We're going to bleed into December a little bit, but it's a quick turnaround, and it is a single production release and cutover. I'll be quite honest with you, CGI, as they were putting their proposal there, and quite honestly, they did a lot of studies on this. You talk about phases and, running dual production environments and all this stuff. And they just, with the timeline we have, all things pointed to doing a single production release. I'm going to talk about some success accelerators in a minute to try to alleviate anybody that just saw the slide and went, oh my God, you're going to leave your office probably on a Friday or Thursday or whenever that is, and you're going to come back on a Monday and it's going to be there, and oof, boy, that can strike fear. But, we're hoping to put a plan together to help everybody manage that. But quite honestly, guys, we've studied this till we were blue in the face. We've got a lot of trust right now in our team here in the Commonwealth, our team with CGI, that this is what we needed to do based on the timelines we had. And we think it's the smartest approach. We think this is a mature program. It's not like we haven't been using electronic tools for a very, very long time. So we think this is the best approach, and to avoid the negative user impacts and to have that rapid transition and full adoption of the new services. All right. So to support that, I'm going to talk about some success accelerators. One of them is our team. So, some of the things when you bring in an incumbent, you don't have to gin a lot of stuff up, right? There's a lot of stuff you don't have to gin up. So what are our success accelerators? We've got existing relationships. We know this management team. They know us. We've been working with them a long time. There's existing project management framework. We don't have to gin that up. We don't really have to build it. It's there. We've had a 20-year relationship where we've tweaked and modified that project management framework and that relationship for years and years and years. We've got tons of subject matter experts in numbers and experience. We are a very mature team. And CGI, we're relying on them to bring in strategic additions through the eValua system and some of the partnerships there and some eValua resources. And state implementation is not new for eValua. It's not like we're the guinea pig. They've done this at multiple other states across the country. So from that perspective, you've got a partner in a software that has some experience doing state implementations. Some other solution accelerators here. The eValua platform is configure, not build. You configure it. It's data-driven. It's table-driven. We're not doing programming. We're not breaking open code and having to program a lot of stuff. It's configure, not build. CGI existing intellectual property, the things we are moving with us, data warehouse and public posting being two big ones, particularly public posting. If you think about where the public posting is done, that's a refine, not build. That's a lift and shift that's coming with us, right? And then we're going to reuse our integration model. So we think all you guys that are out there that do interface integration, it's going to be a real low impact change for you guys because we're not changing that model. We're not changing how that works for you guys programmatically. So very, very, low impact from that perspective. Very, very low impact. Additional accelerators. These are things, if you think about having the incumbent come on, well, the existing architecture and operational framework is already in place. You bring in a new contractor, we would have had to build all this back up, right? So we've already moved, the existing eVA has already moved over to Amazon Web Services and is on that platform. That's the exact same platform we're going to use for the new eVA. All right, so it's there, it's built out. We have an existing operational framework where they monitor and check, and our operations manager on the CGI side. That stuff's all in place. And our existing automations, boom, they're already there. So a lot of that infrastructure and things that could take months and months and months to build, they're already structured and in place and ready to roll. So a lot of success accelerators there. And then preparations are underway. Strategy and planning and processes and risk and mitigation and collaboration and COVID impacts, we've been doing that. That work has been happening. All right. So we think these success accelerators are really going to help us in our very short time frame that we're dealing with. So all kind of good news slide there to kind of help us support the slide I showed you before, where it's like we're going to go click, turn off the old one, and click, turn on the new one, right? So let's talk about a roadmap and start letting you guys kind of see and think about where you fit in. All right. So starting in February, we went right to award an eVA. We didn't do a notice of intent. We went right to award. So that first part of February, we started working and in design. So we're doing requirements analysis, design. That's happening right now. That runs through early May. All right, that's a long process for us. It runs through early May. A little bit of overlap with that is when our test period starts. And that starts in the April timeframe, and you see that's a long run that runs all the way through November, our test timeframe. And then broken out within that test timeframe is a system test period, where that is mostly CGI, taking our designs, doing that configuration, dropping that into a system test, moving it from their development environment into those configurations from a development environment into the system test environment, and doing that test on the CGI side. That time frame, April through June, that's when you'll probably start to see maybe some demos and start to see some screens, and you'll be starting to see some of this stuff as we message with you. Where am I going to be involved? If you're asking yourself, hey, I've had a lot of experience on this, I might be able to help. I've helped before. User acceptance testing. Now, certainly there's going to be plenty of user acceptance testing done internally at DPS, right? But we have a strong feeling that user acceptance testing, it'll be very beneficial to spread that out amongst you guys at the entity level as well. To have you, this is a chance for you in the UAT environment to get in and start looking at some stuff and testing some things, right? So certainly there will be some outreach as we near that August to November timeframe for user acceptance testing, where we might be asking you if you're interested in volunteering and running through some scenarios with us. We think it would be very, very beneficial for you guys from an external perspective to participate and help us with that. All right. Along with the user acceptance testing, that August through November, CGI will start production planning and working with us, as you start to really gin those environments up and get ready to do that cutover. And then that next piece there, which has overlap with a lot of things that are going on, training will start. So starting here very soon, actually, within about 2 weeks, we'll start our training planning. And that is all around what we're going to deliver. Is it going to be computer-based training, virtual modules? We don't know if we'll be able to do in-person, considering the pandemic and the time frame we're on. But kind of planning, user guides, system administration guides, all that stuff. Then there'll be a period August through June where a lot of those things will begin to be created. And that, let's be honest, some of that creation will probably stretch a little longer than that. Train the trainer, which will involve a lot of you out at the agency level. And you'll notice I can give you some time to play around in UAT, and then we can come back and train you guys who have eVA leads or folks that are eVA experts out at your entities to get trained. Certainly, a lot of people at DPS will be trained as trainers. And then end user training, really October through November and through November's forum, right? And again, we don't know what forum's going to look like this year. I hope for sure that we're doing some sort of in-person forum. You never know. Depends on the vaccine rollout and all that stuff with COVID. But that's the concept here. We have shifted all of our outreach and training at this point to virtual. It's actually been a huge benefit to us because we can reach a lot more of you through virtual training. We can capture a lot bigger audience and do it a lot quicker than actually having to be on the road. So virtual training, I'm sure, will happen a lot regardless of the pandemic situation. And then you see there at the bottom, the little diamond. Now we have that diamond slapped into the end of the November, first part of December. I don't know the reality of that. Certainly the drop dead date for us, January 1st of 2021, we certainly want to be on the new platform. So that's kind of our roadmap here and what we're seeing. But again, 2022. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Dan. I said 2021. Sorry, I haven't made the calendar shift yet. You don't hardly write checks anymore, so I don't write I don't write dates very often like I used to. So thank you there for that catch. But again, January 1st, 2022. Again, is that date. So that's our kind of implementation plan overview. And that's what we're thinking there from that perspective. So how do I stay connected? How am I going to stay connected to this? So I've seen this roadmap, and I've identified certainly one area that you'll be involved with, training, because I need to train everybody on this call. I need to train in some capacity, right? Or what's this I stuff? We need to train in some capacity. Right. So I need to get you trained. There might be a lot of you that get involved with UAT testing, user acceptance testing, and getting involved there. So how am I going to stay connected? How am I going to get updated? Well, number one, user group meetings. They're probably going to be more frequent. I think we're already planning one for March. Now, March includes some updates to existing eVA because we've got some neat things to show you, a couple of reports that we tweaked and some cool stuff like that. But every user group meeting, somebody from this team, could be Jan, could be me, could just be Kim, could be Barb, could be Pete. We'll be jumping on and giving you an update about where we're at with the transition, right? So user group meetings, absolutely stay connected to those user group meetings. We've also got, for those of you that know Dave Foster, he's our webmaster and graphics guru here for the eVA program. We're putting together a transition website, like a dashboard. And you guys we'll be linking that to the eVA homepage. And anytime you want, you guys can pop out to the dashboard and we'll have communications, user guides, videos, countdown clock, a place to give us feedback. You'll be able to track where we're at and keep track. So like a dashboard. So you'll have a good idea of how things are going through this transition website. It's not ready yet. We're still kind of playing with it and getting it just the way we want it. But I imagine in the next couple of weeks, we'll release the transition website. If you are on Kim's mail distribution list, we'll be pushing that out through her distribution list, and we'll definitely send that to the account execs for them to push out as well. So so you guys and the folks that work with you and for you can get a link to that transition page and know where it is. Another way to stay connected, I talked about this earlier, testing and training. We want to involve you in that for sure with testing and training. Through the user group meetings and maybe through some other meetings, we'll also be briefing you about some things. Maybe it's, briefing you on some of the functionality, some of the decisions that we're making. Maybe just, through the user group meeting, you get a high level status update. Here we are. This is where we're at. This is where we're doing good. This is where we're behind. You'll get to hear some of that stuff. And then always, that last bullet there, I got your account execs on there. The account execs are heavily involved with internal change management procedures that we're going through, with testing, with training. They're going to be some of the first folks to get some of this information. So certainly as your account execs get information, they'll be sharing that with you as well. So those are some of the things with, how we're going to stay connected going forward. So that is really, kind of an update on where we're at. We're very excited to be moving forward with this. Just a big thanks to, we had a kind of our internal procurement team, and that included Jan Giffen and Kylie Robbins, Barb Lehman and Kelly Gill, Lisa Kirby, Joel Paddo, big thanks to those guys. Big thanks to Pete Stamps for his support. Joe D'Amico, quite honestly, and Sandra Gill for helping us through this. And again, to our evaluation committee, that helped us. There were a lot of external folks that helped with that to get us to this point. I just can't thank everybody enough. It is really, really, really exciting to be, going forward with this and continuing this great program. And everybody on this call, you've been such a big part of our success in any way, shape, or form that you've participated with us. And I can't thank you guys enough. I am like looking over at the participant list and how many individuals have joined us today. And it just excites me that there's this many people joining us and participating in the interest level. And we are super excited to go on this journey with you. And we really, I am confident you're going to like and embrace what you're going to see. And it's going to make your life better from a procurement standpoint. So super excited about that. And then one last slide here. So we do have some sad news. If you've ever called customer care, one of our leads, she's been with us for several years, Natasha Randolph. If you've ever had the pleasure of chatting with Natasha or having her handle an issue for you or getting support from her, Natasha is leaving us tomorrow. She's leaving the organization to focus on her family and some things she wanted to do there. So we are deeply saddened that Natasha is going to be going that direction, but we are excited for her that she has the opportunity to do that. And we just want to thank Natasha for all her service over the years with eVA Customer Care and wish her the best of luck. And I couldn't think of any better place to do it than at a user group meeting. So I hope Natasha's on here and getting to see this. Natasha, you will be missed. You were an awesome, awesome team member and a wonderful lead in eVA Customer Care. And we thank you for everything that you've done for us. And just with that note, want to shift over. That leaves us about 20 minutes for questions.
Yes.
So I have a very pretty slide here that says Q&A, but I am going to stop the slide, stop the sharing so you can see our beautiful faces.
And we do have 2 questions already that
I've got an all-star team here for questions. So, I mean, you can just go crazy.
So we do have 2 that are already over in the Q&A. So the first is related to Cardinal and wanting to know about integration with Cardinal. So if you can speak a little bit to that.
I will say that is certainly something that has always been on our radar, but our focus right now is to transition the procurement functionality into the new environment. And we will work with Pete and our DGS director's office to reach that goal in 2022 and beyond. And I quite honestly do not have a timeline on that, but it is certainly a goal of ours. I know that team is very busy with, I believe they're doing like a payroll, human resources type implementation there, which I consider critically important because I like my paycheck. But certainly that's a goal of ours, and we would like to circle back with that team, but that will be at a point in the future. And again, our focus is core procurement functionality and getting our 11,000 plus end users and our 100,000 plus vendors transition to the new eVA system.
And I think that one of the questions that may also kind of expand beyond that is about our existing integrations and those staying in place.
Yes. So I mentioned it during the presentation. This is the great thing about this model and the architecture we're moving to. And quite honestly, I think we need to pat ourselves on the back a little bit too. You don't actually integrate or interface directly with eVA. You interface or integrate to our message broker, right? And then there's other things too. You can pick up files through Java Client, and there's some other things that we do. But really, DGS, we own all that, and we run all that. So you kind of integrate to our procurement data standard, kind of the standard that we establish. That's going to remain in place. So we think the interface and integration incredibly low touch. We're not expecting any major changes at all programmatically with that. It should be very, very transparent to you guys. Now there will be changes for you guys that are integration because, you know, the integration points happen through approval. So it'll certainly look different, right? It'll look different because the approval flow screen even just looks different, but we really think that's low impact. And that's one of the benefits of moving forward with an incumbent like CGI, that we just think that's going to be very, very seamless for you guys, but more to come as we get further into design and analysis on that.
Perfect. So the other question that came over is there going to be a separate technical meeting and separate technical meetings? And if yes, when will they start?
Technical meetings, meaning like for architecture and integration and interfaces and things like that. I'll let that lay for a little bit of a, I mean, you know, kind of everything we talk about is technical in nature in some point or another. But if we're going to, you know, specifically briefings about, I'll answer it and see if we get a clarification on that. Specifically briefings on like data layout, structure,
integration and architecture is the clarification on that.
Yeah, there would absolutely be some separate things as we get through this analysis phase that you know, we would certainly be pulling those folks in. You'll hear one of your favorite resources, I'm sure, out there that works with you guys, Maria Hatcher, Joel Paddo. You know, you'll certainly hear from those guys if they need to gather you together for any potential impacts to your business. Yes, you will absolutely hear about that. I wouldn't expect anything until we get into probably system test, which, you know, if kind of looking at your timelines, that's late spring, summer. So I wouldn't expect anything until then.
And then just to reiterate again, the vendor integration will continue with Cardinal. So that was just a question that came.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. So just to state it again. Yes, yes, yes. So I feel like
absolutely. Yeah. Yep, and there's two interfaces integrations. You know, one of them with the Cardinal is we do pass vendor data. Cardinal won't notice any changes. We will send them the same file that they're getting now.
No interruptions.
So switching eVA, they'll get it on, let's say we do it over a weekend, they'll get it on Friday, they'll get it on Monday when we turn the new eVA on.
The next question is related to eVA fees and asking if there are plans for those to change.
Right now, no, the fees will not change. They will stay as they are. We are not looking to increase fees at all. So they will stay. And certainly in the future, if opportunity presents itself, we would like to reduce even further the fees.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan.
The next question is asking about the speed of this new platform with Valuable that we'll be transitioning to. And will we have to relog after a few minutes those types of systematic efficiencies? What kind will we gain overall, I think would be the best way to answer this one.
You know, I don't think you know anything about efficiency gains until you actually get into the system and start using it. I would be hoping that existing eVA has acted a little better the last several months because we are not on a land-based data center. We used to be based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and it was a brick and mortar data center, right? A very traditional, if you think about the last, you know, let's say 20 years, right? A brick and mortar data center. We are absolutely fully in the cloud. We use Amazon Web Services, which is, you know, truly, you know, and our ability to scale up and things like that is greatly improved. I'm hoping you're not experiencing issues like that now.
And I think that this specific question was related to timing out after a certain amount of time. So our current expectation is, you know, what's the timeout and if they're getting kicked out ahead of that. If you can just state that for everybody so that if someone's having specific timing out issues, they can reach out to customer care.
Absolutely. If they have something specific that doesn't feel normal.
What's our normal? If you can just clarify that for everyone, please.
Oh, gosh. Oh, I should have. We should have Joel up here as a panelist. Trust me. If I had my druthers, you would never time out. It would just run forever. But we follow VITA security guidance on that, and I think it's like 30 minutes to an hour.
30 minutes.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty quick. Sherry Mickens Green, maybe 10 minutes. It's pretty peppy if you're not interacting with the server, and we just follow the guidelines given to us. It's all about security. You don't want to leave those connections open for long swaths of time if there's no activity. And Yana, thank you, Yana. Yana Urbe, who some of you know is our eVA security officer, 30 minutes tends to be typical across the environments.
Yep. And just keep in mind, again, we are following those VITA data standards that are in place. Yep. So just and complying.
Thank you, Joel, just sent me a separate chat, VITA security and their SEC 525 requirements, and we follow those to a T.
So again, it's
if there's any
much less about
there,
the system
we follow
efficiencies.
All of those requirements.
Yeah, that this is much more about technology and
correct.
security than efficiencies.
I kind of say that jokingly, but we are absolutely in compliance with our security requirements.
So do we think that the new and updated interface will be more user-friendly? And I'm just going to answer that from my perspective. The little bit that I've seen, I'm just going to go, wow. That's all I'm going to wow. Like, I know I'm a cheerleader like this way. But I truly feel like, cause we're all learning this, we are all in this together. It's not just you guys learning this new stuff. We are also as part of our project team, and just how more intuitive and flowy and just all those things that Shane said. I'm just not even going to let him answer that question. I'm just going to tell you from my personal perspective, I really feel like your wow factor is just going to jump by like 100%. So I hope that is also going to be your experience when you start to see some of these things as we phase you into training and those types of things.
My impression is that you're initially going to look at it and be like, oh man, because it is very different. But then, like I talked about in the slides, once you learn it, once you get the navigation down, it doesn't change when you go to a different function, right? It's just the layout is just what the layout is. And it's not, I always called eVA the quilt. And it's a great quilt. I love our quilt. It's kept things running over the years. But you really are not, as you shift to different procurement functions, you're not drastically changing the look and feel of the software. It's the same. It's just now I want to do this. So you'll go up to the menu and boom, you'll hit your drop down and you'll move to something else. But you're staying in the same platform, staying in the same environment. So we used words like it's way more intuitive. Because once I kind of get down the movements, that's it. I'm good. I can get to everything else because it's not wildly different. And you guys know now, EMAL looks way different than Quick Quote, looks way different than sourcing and contracting. And that's just not going to be the case anymore.
So that's a great segue into the next question, which is, what is the timeline for VBO and when will that option go away? So hopefully they're not referring to the public posting, but more about our sourcing and contracting tools and those types of things.
So here comes now I know the AEs have been working on this because I know it's a mission of Barb and her crew, but if you are not aware, VBO buyer, whenever we set officially that go live date, so let's just say for kicks and grins, it's January 1st, right? Because I don't know that we have the date is still a moving target within that late November, December timeframe, right? And still doing one of these things because we just don't know yet. But when the lights go off and the lights come on with the new eVA, no more VBO buyer. All right, it's gone. So, and I know a lot of you, and thank you to the entities that have done this, and thank you to our account execs who have worked so tirelessly with this the last couple of months. A lot of you have started to make the move or have fully made the move, and you guys rock. If you have any tolerance to do it, now's the time. Now's the time, because the other thing that's going to happen is that the window is going to close to move in our current environment and because we're going to be testing and training and and it's going to be the lights on, lights off thing. So yes, but that will be the timeline for VBO Buyer. VBO Buyer is finally going to leave us. Now the public posting stays, that look and feel, that's going to carry forward, which is great because that's what our vendor community is used to, and how they search and find things and stuff. So good question though.
And we also have a question about what new features might be added for contract management module. So if we can give a little preview for any of that.
Ooh, gosh. I mean, I just think it's more robust. I don't know that I can really dig into the details yet, because I'll be quite honest with you guys, outside of looking at it in a demonstration and throwing a couple requirements out, I don't know that I have a great answer to that. I do know our ability to track subcontractor payments like we do now, or like if some of you are, if you haven't been asked yet, that's coming, by the way, just hint. How we track subcontractor payments and how we, manage and work our contracts. There's a lot of similarity. There will be additional things, but it's really difficult for me to speak to that, as we are still kind of putting the business processes together and consolidating our requirements. But I promise you'll get to see screens and demos and be trained on it. I promise you that.
So Vicki Chapman, you've got your hand raised, and I didn't know if you actually wanted to ask your question or if you're able to put it into the question and answer feature. I see your hands lowered, so maybe you hit that button by mistake. I just wanted to double check, so thank you. Melissa, you've got and your hand went down. All right, so what are the plans for invoicing features with Evaluate? You kind of previewed the idea that down the road, and this is something that we'll have the ability to turn on. So I think everyone just kind of wants to get an idea.
Yeah, so it is, we specifically asked in our requirements in the RFP for invoicing functionality, and that is and will be delivered. It will not be delivered day one because it is not a core function that we use now, but it is there. I think for executive branch agencies, we've got a longer conversation, right? Because that starts to get into who owns what. Those of you outside of our, outside of executive branch, completely different conversation, because you have a lot more autonomy to potentially start using that functionality. But again, day one, I wouldn't expect anything day one. I would expect something, we really want to focus on day one, requisitioning, soliciting, registration for vendors. We really want to focus on those core things. And so invoicing is going to be, let's say a few months down the road once we get you guys there. But it is absolutely a feature. It is absolutely being delivered.
And we have some specific questions that are coming over related to retrieving reports of SWAM vendors when you send solicitations out, when they're posted, and just the new platform features in support of shared services purchasing models, and talking about the idea that, asking if specific tools will be more intuitive. And I think a good way to address that is the idea that we are looking to protect the procurement, right? That is ultimately our goal in this process, and looking to make sure that we're continuing that continuity of services, to make sure that everything that we have in place currently is going to transition and move forward. So if you wanted to expand on that a little bit, Shane, just the idea that, functionality that we currently have, we're going to try to make sure that that continues forward, and make sure that those processes are still in place. We don't want to take anything away. And I think what everybody needs to hear.
So our data connection with SBSD to get the SWAM certifications will absolutely stay in place. That is a service we will continue to consume and propagate throughout.
Preview of the bidders list, just, efficiencies.
All of that stuff will be there.
Intuitive.
From a reporting perspective, we're actually moving our reporting tool with us as well. So that actually initially won't change, even though we are looking to get an upgrade in place to enhance our reporting tool. But the actual structure in and of itself and the reports that you are used to running now will stay the same. And it's just a question of when we can fit an upgrade in to get on a better version of that tool, because there is an improved version. They have some great upgrades we need to get put in. just moving to that. And then again, we want to update our style sheet a little bit too, and kind of refresh that. So that's all about how we can fit that in. But the reports you're running now, they're still going to be available on day one.
So we're moving right to the end of our time today for the webinar, and you guys have been asking great questions. If you have additional questions, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to your account executive, Barb, if I can. Yes, that's a good place for them to. Yep, we want to make them your go-to and point of contact, and then they'll loop us in if they need to get some clarification or answers from our project team. We want to thank Pete and Jan also for joining and being part of this today. Shane for all the great information. We know that you are going to continue to have questions, and I think that means that you're excited. At least that's what I'm hearing. You're excited about this. We're excited about this. And as we continue to move forward, look for those communications. Make sure you're paying attention to your email. Make sure that if you feel like you should have been invited to something and you haven't been, that you reach out to your account executive and make sure that you are getting those up-to-date communications and you're staying connected, because we're absolutely going to be using our knowledge center. We're going to be using our website. We're going to be using our account executives. We're going to be using our constant contact tool with the email notifications, and we're going to be using our user groups. And again, as Shane said, having them more frequently. So we do have just a couple questions about training the trainer and local government. So I'm going to refer you back, if you're a local government, to your account executive for your local government so that they can help to keep you up to date about training as we move forward with this transition during this year, right? So that's what's happening. So over the course of the year, as Shane shared. And then with some of the warehouse functionality around purchasing, warehousing, and then issuing. We'll answer those questions, Kimberly, as we go forward and we get into the new platform. You're going to have these specific types of questions about how you use the system currently and how you're going to transition to use the new system and how that's going to change as we go into getting things implemented, rolled out, and those types of things. So hang tight and just stay excited about this transition that we're making. I wanted to thank all of our panelists again for participating, Shane for all the great information, you guys as part of our user group for joining us and taking the time out this morning. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up and look for that playback to come out later today. Again, it'll be posted on the Knowledge Center. It will be pushed out through our constant contact email tool. So if you receive the invitation, you'll get it. And if you're not familiar and you're looking to get joined or to join our user group, there is a link on our eVA website. If you go to the homepage and scroll down, it is a little robot-looking bug, and it says join the conversation, and that will get you on our buyer user group list. So you don't miss anything in the future. So just thank you guys so much.
Stay warm and safe, everybody.
Yes. Have a great day. And we will see you in our March user group. So look for that information to be coming out in the next couple of weeks or so. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.